Pirate fishing vessels. At the center of the illegal fishing world is the pirate fishing vessel itself. These are the boats people imagine first, and for good reason. They are the visible edge of a much larger system. A pirate vessel may fish inside a protected marine area, operate without a valid license, exceed legal catch quotas, use banned gear, target protected species, or simply fail to report what it catches. Some vessels switch off tracking systems, avoid inspections, or fish in waters where enforcement is weak. Others operate in remote regions where the chance of interception is so low that illegal fishing becomes a calculated business model. But what makes these boats dangerous is not just the crime they commit at sea. It is that they are often built to be mobile, adaptable, and hard to tie to a single legal identity. A pirate vessel can change name, change ownership on paper, change registration, change paint, and keep moving. To the public, it may look like one boat. To the network behind it, it is just one tool in a rotating system designed to keep fish flowing and accountability low. Pirate vessels are not the whole illegal fishing network, but they are the part that physically removes stolen seafood from the ocean. Flags of convenience. One of the most important tools in illegal fishing is the flag of convenience system. Every vessel is supposed to operate under the jurisdiction of a flag state, the country where it is registered. In theory, that country is responsible for oversight, compliance, and enforcement. In practice, some operators choose registries not because they have any real connection to that country, but because the registration is cheap, oversight is weak, and enforcement is limited. This creates a perfect environment for bad actors. A vessel can be linked to one ownership chain, crewed by people from another region, financed by entities somewhere else, and then registered under a state with little capacity or willingness to regulate. That gives illegal fishing operators flexibility and cover. If scrutiny increases under one flag, the vessel may simply re-flag under another. This makes tracking repeat offenders much harder and lets the same operators keep moving through the system under new labels. Flags of convenience do not automatically mean a vessel is illegal, but in the context of illegal fishing, they become a powerful shield. They create legal fog. And in that fog, stolen fish becomes much easier to move across oceans without clear responsibility landing on any one government. Shell companies and hidden ownership. Illegal fishing networks rarely want the real decision-makers attached directly to a vessel. That is where shell companies and hidden ownership come in. On paper, a fishing boat may belong to one company. That company may be owned by another company. That one may be registered in a different jurisdiction, and that one may lead to another layer of management or finance. By the time investigators try to identify the true controlling interest, they are no longer looking at a fisherman. They are looking at a maze. This matters because if authorities cannot identify who really controls the vessel, then fines, sanctions, and legal actions become much weaker. The boat can be treated as a problem while the people profiting from it remain invisible. Hidden ownership also makes it easier to move assets around, create fake distance from prior violations, and shield the larger network from consequences. A vessel caught with illegal catch might appear isolated, when in reality it is only one piece of a broader commercial structure. Shell companies are the administrative camouflage of illegal fishing. They let criminal behavior look corporate, fragmented, and deniable. And as long as ownership remains obscured, the same people can keep operating through new boats, new papers, and new names. Fraudulent paperwork and catch laundering. Illegal fish usually does not enter the market labeled illegal. It gets cleaned through paperwork. This is one of the most dangerous parts of the system because once seafood is on ice and moving through trade channels, documents often become more important than reality. Operators can underreport catch, misreport species, falsify fishing locations, lie about volumes, or mix illegal fish with legal catch so everything looks clean once it reaches a buyer. A protected species may be relabeled as a legal one. Fish caught in a restricted zone may be listed as coming from another area entirely. Quantities can be adjusted to make a suspicious trip appear normal. This process is sometimes called catch laundering because the fish itself is transformed through documentation rather than through any physical change. By the time it reaches a wholesaler or exporter, it may be almost impossible for an uninformed buyer to know what actually happened at sea. Paper laundering works because seafood supply chains are long, fragmented, and often international. The farther the fish gets from the moment of capture, the easier it is for false documents to replace the truth. In many illegal fishing systems, paperwork is not secondary. It is the bridge that turns ocean theft into marketable product. Illegal transshipment at sea. Transshipment is the transfer of catch from one vessel to another, usually at sea. In legal fisheries, it can have legitimate uses, but in illegal fishing networks, it becomes one of the most powerful concealment tools in the entire system. A fishing vessel can catch fish illegally, then pass the product to a refrigerated cargo ship, often called a reefer, without ever returning to port. That means the vessel avoids the inspection point where authorities might detect illegal gear, illegal species, underreported volume, or labor abuses. It can then stay at sea longer, keep fishing, and keep operating outside easy oversight. The reefer vessel becomes a mobile warehouse that collects product from multiple boats, mixes loads, and makes origin harder to verify. Once fish from several vessels is combined, tracing one specific illegal catch becomes much more difficult. Transshipment can also help vessels hide where the fish came from and how long the crew has been trapped at sea. In a criminal network, it is not just a logistics tool, it is a disappearing act. The fish vanishes from one vessel and reappears inside a supply chain with less context, less evidence, and fewer questions. For illegal operators, that is exactly the point. Forced labor and abusive crewing systems. One of the darkest parts of the illegal fishing world is that it is often tied to labor abuse. Not every illegal fishing vessel uses forced labor, but the overlap is serious enough that it cannot be treated as a separate issue. When operators want to cut costs, avoid scrutiny, and stay at sea for long periods, crews become vulnerable. Workers may be recruited through debt, deception, or coercive contracts. Passports may be taken away. Wages may be withheld. Crew members may face violence, threats, exhaustion, or confinement at sea for months or even years. In these cases, the vessel is not just stealing fish from the ocean. It is extracting labor from people trapped in a floating workplace they cannot leave. This matters because abuse and illegal fishing often reinforce each other. A company willing to violate fisheries law may also be willing to abuse workers. And a vessel that never wants to enter port for inspection has every incentive to keep crew invisible too. Forced labor turns illegal fishing from a conservation crime into a human exploitation system. It reminds us that stolen seafood is not only an environmental issue. In some cases, it is the product of violence and control hidden far offshore. Corrupt ports, brokers, and middlemen. Illegal fishing networks do not survive on boats alone. They need places to land catch, move paperwork, arrange transport, and connect product with buyers. That is where corrupt brokers, fixers, and weak or compromised port systems enter the picture. A vessel carrying suspicious fish often still needs fuel, unloading, storage, export channels, and commercial documents. In a strict system, those points create risk. In a weak or corrupt system, they create opportunity. A broker may help arrange false declarations. A middleman may know which port asks the fewest questions. A shipping contact may help move product fast enough that scrutiny disappears behind urgency. A local fixer may smooth over inspections, change numbers, or direct cargo into the next part of the chain. These actors are not always as visible as the vessel itself, but they are essential. Without them, illegal fish has a harder time becoming legal-looking commerce. This layer of the network is particularly dangerous because it sits in the gray zone between outright criminality and business as usual. It is where illegality gets normalized by routine handling. The boat catches the fish, but the brokered system gives it passage into the market. Black market buyers and dirty supply chains. The final engine of illegal fishing is demand. If no one bought stolen fish, much of the system would collapse. But seafood is valuable, globally traded, and often difficult for end buyers to verify. That means black market buyers, careless importers, dishonest processors, and risk-tolerant distributors can all help illegal fish find a home. Sometimes the buyer knows exactly what is happening and wants cheap product with no questions asked. Other times the system is more indirect. A company relies on poor traceability, weak controls, and plausible deniability while benefiting from low-cost supply. Either way, the effect is the same. Illegal fish enters legal-looking markets. It gets processed, repackaged, frozen, blended, exported, and sold far away from the point of capture. At that point, the crime becomes almost invisible to the final consumer. The supply chain has done its job. Dirty supply chains are what make illegal fishing profitable at scale. A pirate vessel without a buyer is only a risk. A pirate vessel with a willing or indifferent market becomes a business. That is why the final buyer is not a side note in this story. It is one of the reasons the system keeps working.